Hello and welcome to the Hispanic Patriot podcast, everybody, a weekly podcast broadcast live from a secret, undisclosed location right here in the heart of the great state of Colorado. My name is Nicholas Rosno, and without further ado, I present to you all our fearless patron, Hugo Chavez Ray. Give it up for the Hispanic Patriots.
All right. Welcome to another edition of the Hispanic Patriot podcast, brought to you every week, Thursdays at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. We welcome all our viewers tonight. We have a great guest lined up tonight. We have the one of the candidates for the Colorado GOP vice chair election, which is coming up this Monday via Zoom. That's going to be fun.
Unhappily so, but that's okay.
But he'll be joining us in just a few minutes. In the meantime, we've got some breaking stories, of course, about what's going on with Trump and Epstein and all these other things. So let's lead off with that. And our good friend in D.C., Miss Carolyn Levitt, because she is the bomb when it comes to truth.
Caroline, there's been a lot of discussion about the Epstein files and the president's comments yesterday calling it a hoax. Can you clarify which part of the Epstein hoax is the hoax part?
The president is referring to the fact that Democrats have now seized on this as if they ever wanted transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, which is an asinine suggestion for any Democrat to make. The Democrats had control of this building, the White House, for 4 years, and they didn't do a dang thing when it came to transparency in regards to Jeffrey Epstein and his heinous crimes. It was this president who directed the Department of Justice and the Attorney General to do an exhaustive review of all files related to Jeffrey Epstein, which they did. The Attorney General and the FBI, led by Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, these are great patriots, some of the most trusted voices in the Republican Party movement. It's part of the reason the president appointed them to these high law enforcement positions, and they spent many months going through all of the files related to Jeffrey Epstein, and they concluded what they found in that memo, which they drafted and they released. And so
there you have it. I mean, the Democrats are the ones that had this for almost 4 years. Actually, for the entire Biden administration, because this has been going on since 2019. And, all of a sudden, this is a hot potato. Everybody wants to know about Epstein and Epstein and Epstein. Where were they for 4 years? And if there was something there about the president, do you believe that they would not have released it in a heartbeat? Come on, people. Let's use some brains here.
The president has been transparent. He has followed through on his promises to the American people, but he doesn't like to see Democrats and the mainstream media covering this like it's the biggest story that the American people care about. The president has been working so hard this week. On Tuesday, he went to Pennsylvania, where he secured $90 billion in investments for the Commonwealth, for the people of that state. After that, he came back to the Oval Office at 8 p.m. He went in there to whip votes to get the Genius Act signed into law. And because of his efforts, that bill is now going to be signed and passed. The following day, yesterday, he meets with a foreign leader, the King of Bahrain, to secure more investments into this country. And then yesterday afternoon, the president is in the East Room of the White House mourning with parents who have lost their children because of fentanyl, signing a bipartisan piece of legislation. And not a single cable network in this country took that event live and covered that event like they should.
Thank you, Caroline.
I called on Charlie, but Deanna, you can go ahead too. Go ahead.
The president said that he floated the idea of a special prosecutor in the Epstein case. Can you confirm that? And has he asked the Attorney General to do this, to appoint a special prosecutor to look?
He's not going to appoint a special prosecutor. That'd be asinine. That's just another waste of time and money.
Well, Democrats love that.
This is what's going on, folks. The president is busy doing the business of the people, and this is what they want to hear. Now, let's segue into what some people out there are saying. What are they saying? I can't any longer support the president because of this. And they're saying MAGA is going to fall apart because of this. Well, I got something to show you that says otherwise. Let's watch this little poll that they just put out, and it's not a conservative poll either.
President Trump is confronting a growing backlash from his own base.
The fight is dividing MAGA supporters.
Donald Trump, he promised them, so he needs to do it.
But how is this really working out for them? Is this really hurting Trump's popularity? Is it hurting his approval rating, especially with his base, especially with Republicans? No. If anything, it's helped him. Just wild. Watch.
Look, I think this one surprised me a bit because of all of these complaints online going after Trump and the Epstein files. You might think his approval ratings were going down with Republicans. If anything, they're going up. Republicans who approve of Trump, look at our CNN poll. The prior one, 86%. The one out this week, 88% were Republicans. How about Quinnipiac? The prior poll, 87% approve of Republicans. This week out, 90% with Republicans. If anything, Donald Trump's approval rating has gone up since this whole Epstein saga started. He is at the apex or close there too in terms of his popularity with Republican voters, Epstein files, complaints, or not.
You just proved that.
Okay. Here's my comment on that. Open mouth, insert foot to all of you.
Favorite activity.
About all of you out there crying that MAGA is falling apart because of this Epstein issue. The only one falling apart is you. If you're among those out there, saying that you can no longer support the president because this is outrageous and blah, 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 and we deserve to know. Well, maybe you do, maybe you don't. But you know what? Like I posted on Facebook today, you either trust the president or you don't. There's no middle ground. So pick a side and stop your whining.
I could not agree more, Hugo, and I really couldn't. And I think the people really that are jumping ship right now, these rats jumping ship before the ship's even left port, they have totally forgotten or have never lived through the Obama era, how terrible that was. Do you remember that time where we really believed that we were the worst because they told us so until Trump proved us wrong and said, no, you are Americans. You are the American party. I would even go as far as to say anybody who is anti-Trump at this present or future time even has no business running for office because that poll shows that Republicans don't want you.
Exactly. And think about the president's track record, okay? Everything he has said about something being a hoax or Democrat overreach, blah, blah, has been 100% correct. And now some of you out there want to jump ship because, they won't release the list or they won't release the file. Why? Don't give me.
Well, I think a big reason why, honestly, is I think the language of all of this. File. I think people have this noir 1950s idea of what this all is. This is a complicated judicial process. This is a complicated law enforcement investigation. Nothing is on in a paper file. It's all scattered throughout all kinds of places. And so we already know, this is what really makes me crazy, Hugo. We already know most of the high-profile people, Prince Andrews or whatever have you, who were involved in this. So who do they think that there's even more people that really, I think, Hugo, this is a wish fulfillment fantasy that they believe that the Epstein files will come out. We can destroy the satanic elite that we have because everybody will know that they're pedophiles. Like, newsflash, we already know that they're evil. We already know all that. I believe that even if something was released, it wouldn't satisfy these people because what they're looking for is not facts, it's results. And if you want results, Donald Trump is the man. Don't know what else to tell you.
Yep. So,
and he fights pedophiles like no other. So clearly he is one. It's insane. It's really ridiculous. It's really insane. But that's why the Hispanic Patriot podcast is here for your sanity.
You so-called MAGA folks out there who want to jump ship, if you do, then you're a rat, in my opinion. So I don't really care. So just like the president said, I don't really care if some people out there want to jump ship because of this.
Maybe these people need to jump ship because look at Elon Musk. There's a lot of people right now who have pretended to be Republicans that Donald Trump probably wants away from him. And I agree with that because at the end of the day, he is a smart man when it comes to sensing betrayal. And I think he's preempted a lot of it here. He really does.
It's the one thing about the president that you don't cross, and that is the loyalty part. When you show yourself to be a betrayal person, then you are off the list.
Yep. Well, some people believe they're better because it means they're independent. It's like, you know what? There's a difference between standing alone because you're the only person willing to stand up, and you're standing alone because no one freaking agrees with you. Sometimes if people are standing alone, they deserve to be alone.
That's also called a fool.
Very much so.
So, all right. So we got a few minutes here. Let's move over to this other topic that I found kind of interesting, and that is about James Comey's daughter, who was a U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York.
This has been a bad few week stretch for Jim Comey's daughter. She was just fired by the DOJ. She's known for a couple things. She just lost the Diddy case, of course, and she was Jeffrey Epstein's prosecutor. So the daughter of the former FBI director, James Comey, she's a veteran federal prosecutor, worked on these cases. Maureen Comey is fired. So this is sending tongues a-wagging as the internet personalities and others, and this show has asked questions about what happened with the files, why did we overpromise and underdeliver? But the president has made his opinion on this very clear over the last couple of days. We're going to continue to cover this. And we also have big developments in the Biden cover-up, not exactly a household name, but inside the Beltway. They dubbed him Dr. Jill's work husband. Anthony Bernal appeared today before the House Oversight Committee.
Okay, that's a different topic, so we'll stop it right there. But my only comment to that is, what took them so long? Comey's daughter, for all. Oh my God, I would have fired her day one, man.
My theory is that there were a lot more important people to fire at the time. You know, she must have not been doing too much. And in relation to the Epstein file, it looked like she hadn't been doing very much. So, you know what I mean? But at the same time, you're right. She doesn't deserve to get the paycheck.
Her daddy was probably coaching her because he's probably on the list.
Well, and that's the thing. You know, at the end of the day, we know what these people are. We don't need a list to tell us who these people are. But I think some people are looking for that authority. But you're like, you know what? The greatest authority is the same greatest justice, which is God himself. And all these people are losing their minds, losing their power. Sometimes God doesn't throw people in prison. Sometimes God makes a prison out of their lives. And I think we see that with the satanic elite.
Yep. So it begs the question about the timing, but also, you know, what exactly was she working on? She lost the Diddy trial, which I don't know all the details of that, but my God, they supposedly had mountains of evidence against the guy, and he walks on the most severe of the indictments, which was the RICO, the racketeering part, which would have sent him away for life. And he gets convicted for 2 out of the 5 counts, which I'm going to wait and withhold comment to see what this judge issues as a sentence, because technically, from what I'm seeing, there should be a 15 to 30 year sentence just for those 2 counts. So we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. That's yet.
Yeah, we'll see how OJ this goes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
how much OJ is going to be in this glass. You know what I mean? I'm a half full kind of person.
They're gonna bring OJ from the grave to testify.
Like the cadaver Senate. You know what I mean?
He's gonna be his character witness.
Well, depending on whether he's rising from the ground up or coming from the skies down, I think will be the main judgment in that character point of view.
It's wild, man, some of the stuff that's going on in the Justice Department. But,
it really
relating, some people are calling for Pam Bondi to be fired. I'm not buying that one either.
Not yet. I mean, not even yet, I'd say.
I think she's done a good job. The legal process in this country has proven to move like at a snail's pace. So
Yeah.
people act like, okay, you can wake up one day and then the next day you can issue 20 indictments. It doesn't work that way.
No, the U.S. justice system is insanely backed up, insanely slow. There is no reason to believe that any of this can be done fast. And if it could, we'd have a much better country. So, you know what I mean? We want it to happen. I think we should preface this, Hugo. We want reform in our justice system. We want hardliners to be looking and investigating into the worst crimes. We want this to happen, but we want it to happen right. It's like the Biss quote in Ender's Game: "How we win matters."
Yep, absolutely.
But we never get tired of winning.
That's true.
And we have a man here that doesn't get tired of winning either.
We have our guest in the waiting room, so we're gonna try to move over there and get his bio here that we found that we received, so we can get him introduced to the audience. Most of our audience do know him, but I want to make sure that we've got all of the information that we needed for him. Thought I had it pulled up. Now I'm.
Don't worry about that. Well, folks, I want you all to have a little bit of context for this interview. So we are here in Colorado are having an election for our vice chair of the party. And the reason for this is because the previous vice chair has resigned. So there's very interesting local politics around this, and we very much appreciate you guys joining us for this. So we ask you to please leave a like, leave a comment of what you think about our interviewee. And remember that we are always here at Thursday, 6 p.m.
Yep. So our guest tonight is Mark Hampton. And Mark Hampton is a seasoned business executive and grassroots conservative leader. He has spent over 4 decades in the restaurant industry, rising from entry-level roles to leading large organizations. Currently leading a mid-sized multi-unit organization based in Colorado, he previously served as an executive officer for the 7th largest restaurant company in the United States, overseeing operations for more than 33,000 employees. Mark also founded and ran a successful consulting firm serving the hospitality sector nationwide. Politically, Mark is a lifelong Republican who has cast his first presidential vote for Ronald Reagan back in 1980. His activism deepened during the Obama years and accelerated after the 2020 election. In 2021, he co-founded Parker Conservatives, a grassroots organization that has grown from 35 members to over 2,000 strong. The group hosts monthly meetings to inform, educate, and activate conservatives across Colorado with a mission to restore constitutional values and take back local and state leadership from establishment control. Mark is currently running for vice chair of the Colorado GOP, aiming to bring accountability, transparency, and bold grassroots representation to the party. So without further ado, welcome Mr. Mark Hampton to our show. Mark, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Hugo. How are you tonight?
We're doing great. We've been having some fun with some interesting topics circulating around.
That
always.
That was a mouthful, wasn't it? I guess I should have shortened that up. When you asked for a bio, I guess I went kind of long. I did a whole torf on you.
No, not at all. Yours was particularly interesting, so don't.
If he'd have read that, it would have taken twice as long.
Well, thanks for having me on tonight, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Well, absolutely, great to have you.
How are things in Parker these days?
We're kind of bruised. We're kind of turning purple down here in Parker, just like a lot of Douglas County.
Oh no, I don't want to hear that.
I know.
I'm a former resident of Parker. I lived in Parker for 10 years.
I've been in Parker now since '86.
Okay.
And Douglas County as a whole, we were really red, but they're making their inways. I mean, we got Bob Marshall over in Douglas County on the Highlands Ranch, so we got a Democrat representative over there, just won his second term. Our conservative mayor lost this November to what I would determine to be a socialist. And so they're making inroads here. It's not like it used to be. And we gotta fight, and take it back one step at a time.
Yep.
Absolutely.
We'll add Douglas County to our prayer list.
There you go. We could use them.
All right. So, interesting things going on, of course, in the party, and you've stepped up and threw your hat in the ring for this vice chairman position. So, tell us a little bit about your background, other than what I've already given, and tell us what inspired you to run for state vice chair.
Okay. Well, a little bit more about my background. Yes, I've been in business for a long time. Part of my consulting, and what I still do today, is one of my biggest strengths is executive coaching. And that's taking people from middle management and getting them ready for more senior management positions. So people that they want to coach up to be a CEO, a chief operating officer, things like this. So I work with those people because it's sort of like your kids sometimes. It's hard when they're in an organization to get the proper mentoring. We find it's easier if they hire somebody from outside that organization, because they don't come in with any preconceived ideas. And it's not like Game of Thrones. I see your shirt, so that's Game of Thrones. Because in business, it can be a lot like Game of Thrones.
Very true.
Just look at the
There's a lot of politics in business.
Colorado GOP, man. Careful! We don't want to have a red wedding this Monday night. Okay?
Well, how could we over Zoom? That might be some of the logic as to why that decision was made like that,
maybe.
Along with other considerations.
But that's really some of my strengths. Is I go into organizations and I help them be more than what they are, and help them teach them what they need to do. So that's really about what I excel in and what I really enjoy doing. And I did a lot of that in my consulting firm. But what got me going on this, Hugo, is you were on the call that night, and that was the budget meeting. I happened to get the invite to that, and I guess that wasn't supposed to go out to all the SEC members, but I got on there, and I was just appalled from a business standpoint, just looking at not personalities or any of that, just pushing all that aside, going, how are you guys discussing a budget that hasn't been shared with all these people? They should have gotten it 2 weeks in advance. And so they could have.
By the way, I was in business for 35 years as well in the telecom industry. And I tell you what, that was my first question. It says, this is the cart before the horse.
Oh, definitely.
And I requested copies of that budget, which is really a
spreadsheet.
Spending plan, really.
No,
yeah.
It was more of a PowerPoint presentation than a budget. So I requested that it be sent to the executive committee ahead of time, at least a week, so that we had time to digest it. And they, what they told me? So we're concerned about it being leaked.
Oh,
and then we got on the meeting, and they allowed all these guests into the meeting.
Yeah, like me.
And watched the entire presentation, and it was leaking on social media halfway through the meeting. So
they were taking screenshots. They were all over the place, because I was kind of watching social on one screen as I was watching on the other. And I'm like going, oh, I just saw that slide.
This is my third time on the executive committee, and I can tell you, we've always had the budget sent to us ahead of time to look at. But besides that, it wasn't virtual. We were in person meeting. But they sent us copies that we could study and then discuss at the meeting. But this was a joke.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
So as I watched this whole thing and listened to you and the other members, and a lot of good questions. Well, they had the vote and it lost, right? And then they piddled around, probably started texting people to whip the vote, because when Britta said, Greg, what should I do next? The proper answer he should have given was, Madam Chair, you need to accept the vote. And that actually didn't happen, which gave them that opening to stall. Then they take the other vote. Well, then it comes up that, should we give 2 weeks? And Richard talked for 15 minutes how it was a good thing to give everybody 2 weeks to review this and come back and vote for it. And then we took the vote, and he voted no.
Yep.
On what? And I was just like, okay, somebody has to bring some sanity here because this is insane.
Well,
So
exactly
right then, that was a seminal moment that I decided I'm going to run. This is crazy.
Yeah. Well, verbatim, what she said is, "Where do we go from here?"
Right.
To me,
exactly. Where do we go from here?
That is an acceptance of the vote. That's accepting the results. Because what was next? What would have been next is
adjourn the meeting.
You adjourn the meeting, send the budget out, and wait for the next meeting to actually vote.
Yeah,
that was the motion. But I was just, and I've had words with Greg about this. I was disappointed in the way he conducted that because he said, "Well,
I agree.
The chair hasn't accepted." What do they have to do? Declare, to the masses, "I hereby accept the vote"? Baloney. Yeah.
Exactly. No, it's very true. And also the spirit of it all. Actually, you make a good point, Mark, is that actually the spirit of it was very clear, is that she didn't like the vote. And unfortunately, we can't have leaders that don't like the will of the people. That kind of goes against everything we stand for in the Republican Party, I think.
Exactly. So, that was the moment, Hugo, where I decided to get into the race. It's also, running Parker conservatives, our last little byline is activate. And I talk to our members, every month that we meet. And, we get between 80 and 100, but we've had up to 200 people at a meeting. And, it's tough when you sit up there and tell them that they should be PCPs and carry petitions and all these other things that, walk, make phone calls. And I do a lot, but there's also those moments in time when you have to say, you kind of have to walk the walk or walk the talk type of deal. Yep. I use, it's just one of those things you just got to do. And all I can tell you is, if you're called to lead, sometimes you have to go forth and lead, Joshua 3:7, that's one of my favorite passages in the Bible. And, if you're called to lead, go forth and lead. Lead the way. So that's what I'm going to try to do.
My wife says I'm a political junkie. And when people ask me why I do this at my age, I show them photos of my children, my grandchildren, and my great-grandchildren. And I tell them, I said, this is why I do it. This is why I fight. And I'll continue to fight as long as I've got the platform. I started this podcast after 10 years with the Colorado Hispanic Republicans, and
shout out,
because I needed to continue the voice, and I wanted to grow something that at least was reaching the masses. And we're growing, in baby steps, but we're growing,
and leaps and bounds sometimes. The algorithm praises us sometimes.
Exactly. So, this is the purpose of this show, is to address the issues, but also to reach the Hispanic voters, which, in my humble opinion, is the salvation of the Republican Party in Colorado. But I haven't convinced enough people that that's the case. And that's not to disparage any other demographic or any other voter base, but that's just a fact. You've got the fastest growing demographic. You've got 300,000 Hispanic voters in this state who are eligible to vote that are either not registered or don't vote. So if that's not an alarm bell sounding off, I don't know what the heck is.
And it should be said that the vast majority of them are Christians, which is very important for our nation and everything like that. And actually, Hugo, you bringing back that history lesson actually brings, as a young person myself, something very much into picture. That I'm surrounded by two older men with very young spirits. I have to make that very clear, is that a lot of the people who are older men who get involved in politics often have the same youth and the same hope in the country that they had when they were young men, but with the danger of experience, we could call that. And we have to be grateful for that as young people, because I'm going to tell you, Mark, we have a huge crisis of mentorship in our generation. Really so. Very easily.
Really? Yeah. Because, I have about 450 employees. and a good percentage of them are Hispanic. In fact, I see Ray on. Two of my major leaders, and he's met both of them, are both Hispanic. And one of my young ladies, I was just out in Grand Junction. She also works Colorado Springs for me. And we were having dinner together, and she goes, "My dad brought you up the other day." And I'm like going, "How the heck did this guy find out about me?" And I thought it was kind of, and she said, "He saw that you're running for vice chair and Lauren Boebert, endorsed you, and he wanted to know all he could about you." And as I was talking, he's very active in the Republican Party in kind of the Clifton area of right outside Palisades, right, kind of east of Grand Junction. And so, we have to engage the Hispanic population. I've been talking to Ray ever since I met him about this. And we have to do what we can do. So it's tough sometimes being a business owner. I can't go in and talk politics to all my employees, but my upper management, I do on an ongoing basis, because they all have pretty much the same values that I have. They're all very Christian people. They're all very conservative. And, how do we make inroads? But a lot of them, to your point, don't want to vote. But out of my 450 employees I have, I'll bet you easily, Hugo, 300 of them are Hispanic. And in leadership roles, running restaurants as well.
And they're just naturally conservative in their life. They lead and live very conservative lives. So who does that align with politically? That's
right.
The Republican Party. So it should be their natural home. But when we've talked to them over the years, one of the biggest complaints I hear is that they don't feel welcome in the Republican Party. And I blame the apparatus for that. That means our messaging has not conveyed a welcoming message to the population. And so I always say, shame on us for that.
That's exactly. That is our fault. You have to look in the mirror and say, you have to own that, right? You have to own it and say, we're just not doing something right. What do we need to do to adjust for that messaging? Because we're missing the Gen Xers and millennials as well, be it whatever culture they're from, because we don't message correctly, because they think differently. They have their value sets are differently than us old guys. And we have to adjust that message. It isn't a one size fits all. And that's what the Republican Party has always believed. Here's a channel, go. And if we want to get these conservative Republican voters off the unaffiliated rolls, we're going to have to adjust that to make them understand, hey, you're going to have to pick a side, and we are the correct side or the right side to be on.
The math is, and this is why we have here on this show, the Boomer and the Millennial. Okay. So, that's what we tag ourselves as. But here's the deal. 300,000 non-registered eligible voters. Okay. And my message has always been, what if we were successful in attracting 1/3 of those?
Right.
That's 100,000 votes. Now go back and look at every election we've had in the last 6 or 8 cycles and tell me how many races were won by more than 100,000 votes. I can count them on one hand, which means that if we were successful in bringing in 100,000 new voters to the Republican Party, guess who's going to win?
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So that doesn't mean we'll win every race, but I guarantee you we'll win more than we lose.
Yeah.
And we can take those top offices. When I moved to Colorado in 1999, we had all the top offices: governor, secretary of state, treasurer, all of them. And then within just 2 cycles, it was gone.
Right.
And the Democrats took over. So thanks to the blueprint. But, I don't want to take up time on that, because I want you to tell us, what do you see as the role of the state vice chair in the party?
Well,
besides the fact that you can step in if the chair is not available.
Correct. It should be a role of support, right? It should be a role of pushing the chair and the party forward. That's what I actually see the role to be. and other items as assigned. I've been in business and I know that line really well.
Yep.
But, but the way it works is, according to the bylaws, you're really, at the mercy of the chair, and you serve what it's called at the pleasure of the chair. And so if they decide to do, well, let's call it a Phelan to me, and just not engage me at all to do anything, then my role will be very de minimis for the party itself. But I've already been talking to a lot of people that have been helping me along, and we're talking about, well, if that happens, no one says you can't get out and not necessarily talk on behalf of the party. You have to be careful on how you speak in the tone and how you lead into your conversations. But I'm thinking about traveling around the state. We're getting ready for 26, and I'm pretty, friendly with some of these people that are out running, like Hope Schleppelman out, in CD3, and Hope and I've talked about it, that I may go out and on a weekend, go talk where the people are,
Right.
I know Greg lives out east of me out here in Elizabeth. I'll talk to Greg. We were going to get together last time he ran, and I wasn't able to clear my schedule enough. So that's probably what I'm going to do, is just get out and talk to the people and let the people help make my case. If I can't make it on my own, we can bring pressure by getting enough people to exert that on the chair themselves. A true grassroots type surge. So that's what I'm looking for, but I'm really hoping that she embraces it. I see the party in crisis just like everybody else does. If you take a look at our membership, just the SEC, it's pretty well split right down the middle. Not quite. It kind of vacillates because there's people riding the fence, but pretty much let's just call it 50-50. Well, in the attitude that she's taken, she has alienated 50% of those people. So let's just round up to 500 and say 250 people. It's not quite that many, but for conversational purposes, that number will work. And that's not healthy, right? That's not good. And if you take a look at what Trump has done going into his administration, he learned a lot from his last administration. And he came in and said, hey, I'm okay with a Democrat like RFK being in Health and Human Service. I'm okay with Tulsi Gabbard being on what she's doing. And he brought those people in because he was looking for the best people to help fill out his cabinet, but he was also looking to actually unite more Republicans together. And just not Republicans, the people, us as an American people. And that's the piece that Britta and whoever is behind the sock puppet here, telling her what she needs to do, that's where they've lost it, because unity, the way they're using it, which is just a word, doesn't work. You have to have actions. And it isn't the action of, well, let's have a barbecue and kumbaya and all get together and then we'll all be united. That's not unification either. That's a social gathering. Unity is when you take a look at your committees that you formed, and just like Trump did, and said, do I have a broad base of all the different factions that are in the SEC and in our party? And that wasn't done. That needs to be, that's the first step in correcting some of this, is that, because that would be a first great step.
I couldn't agree more, actually, Mark, because a lot of us young people, and there is a lot of young voters on the SEC, including from El Paso County, we have seen what I would describe as a failure of politics, a failure to communicate, one might say. But you're right about the factional aspect. Absolutely. That's going to be the main sticking point for anybody who's running for vice chair. And we brought up an interesting situation in the country of Lebanon, which has a lot of factions. They have something called the National Compact. We could have something like that here, where our more libertarian-minded, our establishment-minded, our grassroots-minded work together. And I would advocate that a puppet of any kind can simply not do that. And I think that is, I think you would agree, the major difference in your campaign, that you don't want to be a puppet, like the person who just resigned or the person currently running against you. So I would ask you in that case, a very key question for your campaign is, what's your approach to unite all these factions in the sort of compact and harmony between establishment, grassroots, the MAGA rah-rah faction, and the libertarians? How do we bring all the different flavors of Colorado Republicans together?
Well, we buy a 31 flavors.
I'm already liking this. No.
And we add a whole lot of nuts to all the ice cream.
Do we have free pizza, though? Do we have free pizza? That's going to be a big question.
Only if you... let's not go down to free pizza.
Yeah.
That's a good question. And it's easier talked about than accomplished. It takes the right-minded people that actually do want to come together. And I've done this over the course of my time in business, because when we buy a business, and I've got you bring in two competing executive teams, and they're both on edge because nobody knows who's going to lose a job here. And it's kind of the same way. They're not going to lose a job, but are they going to lose a voice at the table? And that's what they want to have, is that voice at the table. All humans are pretty basic when you boil things down to what they're looking for. They're all looking for a voice. They all want to be heard, and they all want to be taken seriously. And hopefully you can push forward some of the things they would like to do. So the biggest thing is to get those right people in a room to have that open and honest conversation, in which I would be more than happy to facilitate something like that. I've done them before. And to have that conversation of, what are your gripes? Let's get those out and get them on the board, but also then hopefully get some of those things behind us. What are your hangups that's causing you all this angst, that's causing the anger that you see? Because we do see a lot of anger. And what is that? And you have to kind of peel the onion, as they say, and get through all that, figure it out, and then start addressing it as a group. Because there isn't going to be, again, here, one size fit all. The libertarians are going to be a lot different than the MAGA people. And the establishment people, they're still going to want a voice. We're not going to say that you don't get a voice. American prosperity, do I love American prosperity? No, I do not at all. But they're going to have to get a seat at the table if we're going to make this work at the end of the day. Now, how much we have to listen to that and how we treat that is all needs to be professional, and it needs to come to one seminal thing. Is what we're doing going to push the GOP forward in two things? One, getting more registered Republicans on the rolls. Number two, getting Republicans to win elections, both in the state and federal level. And in some of these nonpartisans that have kind of turned more partisan lately, like school board elections and things like that. We need to get good conservatives in these seats, and we're not going to do it just 50% of us. We got to have to come together to get everybody rowing in the same direction.
Mark, there's no such thing as a nonpartisan race.
No. That's kind of such a joke.
It's technical,
it's a technical thing. So
one of the things that I would promote within the party, and that is, in Denver, we have the it's now renamed the Colorado Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and it's got over 2,500 members that are Hispanic-owned businesses, and some also non-Hispanic-owned businesses, but the majority of them are Hispanic-owned businesses. These people, to me, represent a block of citizens that need to be addressed. And I think it's a travesty that the state party is not a member of that organization.
I would agree. Those are some of the things that we need to be doing, as we try to push. We have to be looking at those type of things and saying, when we get somebody like you to say, hey, why aren't you a member there, actually stepping back going, well, that's a good question. Why aren't we? We need to, and getting FaceTime in that group to start talking to them about the GOP and what our values and principles are.
I and Greg know Mike Ferrafino very well. I don't know if you know him.
I do not.
He's a former candidate. He ran for, I think he served or ran for a state house seat, whatever. But Mike is a Democrat, but he is one of those, what I would call, reasonable Democrats. He's not a hardcore leftist or anything like that. But he is the chairman of the Hispanic Chamber. And we've talked about this a lot. It says, the Republicans are not visible in that organization. And that's part of the problem. That's one of the steps that need to be taken. So I'm going to, if you get elected, I'm going to task you for planting that seed in the hierarchy and saying, hey, we need to be a member of this organization, because then you can get invited to the gatherings and have representation there. And you start planting those seeds, and people see that Republicans aren't the ogres that they're portrayed to be, and that we have common sense approaches to real world solutions. So this is what needs to happen in that area. And a lot of people look at me and now, yeah, there's Hugo again talking about the Hispanic voters. And I'll talk about them until I die, because it is a fact. I'm not just, blowing wind out there.
That is why our symbol is the sugar skull with the headphones on, folks. Even after we're long gone, we will be with you.
Yep.
And that's also through the power of technology. And I think, Hugo, you would agree that, the two men next to me, don't let their age fool you. They know technology, maybe even better than some of us young people.
Yep.
But so in that regard, there is so much fear, I think, around the technology we especially use for our elections. And I think a lot of us in the GOP are kind of tired of the squishiness from many of our officials around election integrity. So, Mark, I want to ask you the tough question. Where do you stand on election integrity, especially here in Colorado, where it is such a huge issue?
Yeah, so I just had 3 Zoom meetings over the last few days. And, one of the questions I was asked, where did I stand on the 2020 election? And I say, well, it was stolen. Pure and simple. From the evidence that's been presented to me, that is my personal opinion. And I'm kind of like, well,
you're an election denier.
Yeah, change my opinion then. And just don't stand there and say, we have the gold standard.
Well, welcome to the club.
Prove to me you had the gold standard. Because I got these people over here showing me all kinds of documentation that says you don't. You just can't sit there. It's sort of like that unity word. You just can't say it's safe to use. Yeah. Well, prove to me it's let me fill out 100 ballot things and feed through this thing and see if the number comes out right. Yeah, but and the way it's been done, if I had my way, I would tell you we would go back to paper precinct balloting the way we used to do it years ago, and it all worked out. We all got it done. We all knew that night who won our elections, even on a presidential scale.
Post hanging chads.
Yeah, without our hanging chads. But we were able to get it done. So election integrity is big, because that's another one of those things that are hanging out there that until this really gets addressed, there's going to be a large faction of people that is not going to trust our elections, and we got to help them get past that. And that doesn't mean just jamming down. Well, you're just going to have to accept the fact that this is the way we're going to do it, and it's safe. No, that's not how you convince people to do things. That's not proper.
So that
especially us Chicagoans who actually know what election fraud looks like, feels like multiple times over.
You go Mayor Daley, huh?
Oh yeah, the whole bit. You know what I mean? And also, my family was in horse racing as well, so we had a few.
Oh, geez.
We knew these people. You know what I mean? They were all entangled with things. But nowadays, that's what gives us the ability to fight here in Colorado. We know what's coming. And Hugo, before your next question, I just wanted to give a few plugs that, yes, Mark Hampton is endorsed by Lauren Boebert, and we interviewed Lauren Boebert. You can find that interview in the comments below, as well as the interview we did with Mike Ferrafino of the Hispanic Chamber. Yeah. Take it away, Hugo.
So along those lines, how would you help recruit, train, and support candidates at the local and state levels? Because I think that's severely lacking.
Yes. That's one of the questions we had in the forum. From a recruiting, I'm going to break it down because there's several pieces on that. From a recruiting side, the GOP should be helping recruit, because we come in contact with really great people all the time. And sometimes, good people just need that little bit of a nudge to get going. So there isn't a real plan to be able to do that I have. That's one of those things that when you talk to people, you just got to make that mental note and talk to them. Hey, have you ever thought about it, and plant that seed? To me, that's recruitment, because if you pressure them to get into it, they're going to have a way different attitude towards it versus something organic that they come up and say they want to do it. So we don't want to pressure people into running. What we do is we want to organically get them to understand, hey, this could be a good deal for you. Is this something you would like to do? Hey, and we're here to support that. So what does support look like? So support can be a lot of different things. Now, if we go back to our earlier conversation with the budget, one of the things that I hated about that budget was it's, besides being $2.4 million, is there was nothing dog-earing any direct candidate help. That was just basically overhead, $2.4 million.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of look at, the 4 sub offices that they're going to do, Hugo, and I look at that and go, okay, at $55K a piece, and we know we're going to have additional overhead. That was just a salary. So let's just say that that's $75,000 with expense reports and whatever else we throw in there. I think we're being extremely generous. We got 4 of them. That's $300,000. How would 10 candidates feel to get $30,000 for their house runs in 26? Because as I look at the race, I pulled up all the close races, and we have 6 races that were lost by Republicans less than 5 points. Would that $30,000 a person have gotten them to win? I don't know, but it may have. We don't know, because most of these people, when you talk to them, they will tell you, I just didn't have enough support from the state GOP. Now, support comes in a lot of ways. Support can be money, but it's also learning how to spend that money correctly, and being very frugal with it, and spending it in the areas that you should be spending it, and not spending it in areas you shouldn't. Because as soon as people know that you're running, they come out of the woodwork, every consultant and everybody, to help you spend your money. That's what happens. So we need to educate them a little bit better on, hey, this is what we're going to spend this on. This is the type of messaging we're going to spend this on, so we can get to as many people in your district as possible.
Yep. So that's something that's always been on the minds of a lot of people, and there's been a lot of talk, but I haven't seen any concerted effort to not only, like you said, recruit, but plant seeds in the populace all over the state, not just certain counties. And then having the ability to convert that into ground games and getting those people to walk and knock on doors, and that's what the Democrats are good at doing.
They're excellent at it.
Yep, and they do it. They knock on doors, they flood neighborhoods, and that's what needs to happen in order to complement the money part. And you mentioned the 4 district offices. We're supposed to get one here in Denver, and I'm still waiting. I'm not holding my breath. I'm currently the vice chair in Denver, and actually acting chair now that our chairperson has had to take a leave of absence for family medical reasons. So you're looking at the chairman in Denver right now, and we're working on some things. We just redid our website. I don't know if you had a chance to take a look at it, but it's I'm biased, but I think it's the best website in the state as far as counties go.
And you all can judge that in the description.
Yep. But we talked a little bit about the Hispanic, the Black, the Asian votes, and the younger votes. What would be, if you had the power, what would be your plan to connect with those voters in a more meaningful fashions, that feeling that they have that says we don't feel welcome in the party? How can we change that dynamic from coming from the party and making sure that they understand that, yes, we do welcome them, and that we do want them in the party, because we know that this party will stand with them a lot better than the other party. So, what would you? Is there anything you would do differently than what's been done in the last 6 to 8 cycles? And you're looking at a guy that's dealt with 6 to 8 chairpersons from the state party for the last 12 years, 12, 13 years. And all we got was lip service. And that has to stop. That's the part that I.
Yeah, so it's a little bit like what we talked earlier about your Hispanic Denver chamber, right?
Yeah, that's one.
It's getting into those groups and getting people that are already in. Because if you look at our, again, number 500 members, we have every nationality in our membership, at least a couple, if not more. And we have to tap those people to help us in those specific communities, because it just can't be the old white guy going into one of the Asian community and they're all going, what's this?
Yep.
You have to be able to set the table properly, and you have to have something that's going to give you credibility and somebody that's going to stand up and give you some street cred. Right? Because if you don't have that, you're just another guy that's come in asking for a vote. And that's the biggest thing is, yes, we do want their vote, but we also want to hear from them on what their challenges are culturally and as citizens of the United States and as of Colorado. Because how can we help them make it better? Because ultimately, that's what we want to do. I mean, that's when you go around and you listen to somebody like Lauren and she goes into these markets and she talks to these people, it's very heartfelt. And so is Trump. Trump's great at it when he goes into these small communities, and sometimes it's under devastation and stuff like that, and he sits and listens. A lot of times these folks don't want anything more than a person to care and a person to listen to them. And then also at the end of the day, not just blow it off and get on down the road and go to the next coffee shop, right? You got to take that information and then try to formulate a plan to help them out and then follow up. If there is no follow-up, you've wasted all your time before. You have to then go back and say, hey, I took notes. These are some of the things I did. I called this representative. I did this. I got a hold of this, program in Washington, D.C. You should be hearing from these folks. And then following up on an ongoing basis, not every day, but they have to know that you're actually doing something and you care. And when the people know that you care, that's when they'll start following you. Because if they feel you don't care, they won't follow you. I don't care what you do.
It's the old saying. This is they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's a slogan that we've used tremendously. You have to build relationships before you can ask for a vote, because people don't trust somebody they don't have a relationship with.
I couldn't agree more, Hugo. That's so true.
It starts at the ground level, and that's where I personally believe that the PCPs are the most powerful people in the party. And if we can get a strong movement along PCPs to all be doing the same thing throughout the state, I think we can see some real results. The problem is that, like in our county, we have a lot of vacancies we're working hard to try to fill.
Here in El Paso as well.
Also other counties that have the same problem. But if we were to mobilize the PCPs and do it, how do you eat a 5,000 pound elephant? You say one bite at a time.
Yeah. No, it's so true. And for anyone not aware, PCP means precinct leader. It is the basic level that the party that you enter into. Very much my Roman history showing it's very much like the quaestor on the cursus honorum. It's the first level you could possibly get into. And we here at Hispanic Patriot believe in education for people to integrate with the party and have their voices known. And I think, Mark, that is my very straight up and honest observation of you in comparison to other figures in the party that are interested or would have been interested in this role, that you don't have the vested interests that make a lot of us feel that we are not cared about, that we are pawns to a greater game. We don't want to play a greater game anymore. We want people who truly care about us. And so thank you for committing to that and being that voice in candidates. So with that being the case, I wanted to ask you something very important, which is that why should Republicans across the state place their trust in you as vice chair for that promise? And if elected, what is your day one priority?
So I would ask them to place their faith in me for the vote, because I am not your normal politician, political guy. I'm a businessman, and I look at things through that lens, and I see some dysfunction. I've taken companies through bankruptcy. And this is sort of like looking at a couple of those companies I've taken through bankruptcy and going, oh man, this is going to be gnarly.
The energy is very similar.
but it's going to be fun. For me, it's very energizing. It keeps me young, so I would hope that they won't. It's sort of like what we just talked about. I got to earn that street cred with them, but I have to also ask for their vote. And if you don't think that I'm doing a good job, you have my phone number, my email. Send me a note and tell me you don't like what I'm doing and what I should do better. I always listen. May not always agree, but I'm going to listen because that's what good leaders do. And to answer your question on day one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Britta to have coffee with me one-on-one and really sit down and probably have a couple-hour conversation with her if she'll sit down with me to say, hey, I'm not criticizing you. I'm criticizing a path that you're on, and you're going to have to remove yourself and your ego a little bit and just kind of listen. And what I don't want to hear is the phrase that just pisses me off to no end. Mark, you just don't understand. When politicians tell me that, man, God, I just want to rip their face right off.
Couldn't agree more.
Because I do understand.
In a loving, nonviolent way, of course.
In a nonviolent way. That's exactly it. I'll just write a piece on them.
There we go.
But that's what I would do day one, and hopefully start bridging that gap right away, that it would be non-threatening, right? And that we can move forward. It's going to be her decisions. I use this phrase all the time, man. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. I can sit there and put the best case of why she should do what she should do from a business aspect, just to start getting people, putting people together in the unity that she talks about all the time. But at the end of the day, she'll either want to do it or she won't want to do it. Or her handlers, let's put it that way, will want to do it or not want to do it. And we'll just have to wait to see how it turns out.
Yeah. I'm wondering if we have an auto pen in the state party.
Well, I think we could definitely end on this note, gentlemen, that Mark represents change in the party. We know that if his opponent is elected, nothing will change and everything will stay the same. But I think all of us can agree, no matter who we're voting for on an objective level, one vote represents change, one vote does not. And I think that Hispanic Patriot Podcast has brought it to you. And Mark, we here at Hispanic Patriot Podcast would love to give you some of that cred right there.
Yep.
There you go.
All right. Hey, I'd love to come back on anytime. You guys have any events, be sure I get notified. Love to come to your guys' events.
Once we get you elected, we're going to have you back on.
There you go.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, gentlemen. You guys take care. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming on.
Don't forget, everybody, if you're an SEC member, vote Mark Hampton on Monday night.
Monday night.
After
Monday night.
In.
God help us for that.
All right. Take care, gentlemen.
All right. That was Mark Hampton, candidate for vice chair of the Colorado GOP. And the vote will be taken this coming Monday at the Central Committee meeting via Zoom, assuming everything goes smoothly. So we will see. I mean, personally, I really do hope it goes smoothly and we can get it done. Alternatively, if it doesn't go smoothly and we can't get it done, then I guess we'll have to move to a different alternative. So,
like maybe an in-person meeting. Well, imagine that.
Exactly. So we'll see how it goes. All you Central Committee members out there, make sure that you are in attendance. This is a no
Yes,
proxy meeting, so
why you were voted in for. So
you cannot give a proxy for this meeting or carry one. So make sure that you're there. All right. So it's been a great evening. We got to most of the things we had to cover. We do have one quick announcement that we want to put up, and that is, of course, about our event coming up on August the 12th.
Our town hall for and by the people.
Town hall that is coming up, and here is the flyer for that event. And we hope that everyone that can attend will attend. And we have Jeff Hunt as our moderator from KNUS. We have Senator Mark Baisley, Representative Scott Bottoms, Representatives Ken DeGraff, and newly elected State Senator Linda Zamora Wilson. So it's a great panel. All the questions, all the questions will come from the audience. So we want it to be a true town hall for the people, because we want to know where the people stand on the issues. And that's the best way to do it. So limited seating. There's no registration required. Just first come, first serve.
Nice and easy.
At the church at Briargate in Colorado Springs. We hope that you will be able to attend. If you're unable to attend for whatever reasons, follow that link at the bottom there, which is our live stream link. The event will be live streamed for the entire duration from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. that day. So that's our shameless plug for the night, and we hope that
very dignified plug.
We'll be sending it out. We'll be sending it out more as we go along. We still
This
have
is going to be one of the most open town halls you've ever had, folks. A truly free experience for free people.
Absolutely. So we're up against the clock. Thank you for coming on tonight. For all of our listeners, we hope you enjoyed what we had to provide. We look forward to seeing you next week. Same time, same back channel.
Same secret location.
Same secret location. We're not telling you where we are.
No.
Just look behind us. You can see where we are.
God bless you, folks. We love you very much, and we appreciate every single one of you.
From the